parents. Welcome back to the Parent Experience Podcast, otherwise known as Pep Talk. I am your host. My name's Robert, and today I'm joined by some special guests. Could you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves and just tell us a little bit about your family?
Yeah, so my name is Jerromy Cissell. I'm a recruiter for the Army National Guard, and Blair, my wonderful wife Blair, and I have been married for 8 years in October.
Good
October
answer.
24th.
Good
Yeah,
answer.
so
Did he get it right, Blair?
He did get it right.
Perfect.
8 years. We've been together for almost 10.
Okay.
So yeah, it's been a long time. That it's we were talking about the other night. It does not seem like it's been that long, but it's
That's good, I think.
good amount of
I
years.
think that's
Yeah,
good.
I think
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
Some days
If it was bad, I feel like bad things seem to drag on.
Sure.
So,
You're like, I feel
must
like I've
be
been in
going
this
well.
marriage forever.
yeah.
That's
Yep.
great. Blair?
Yeah, my name is Blair, and like you said, we've been married for 8 years. In my civilian life, I am the manager at Sweet Child, which is a baby and children's boutique. So super fun retail job. And then we also have a little one, Bexley, who just turned 6 in August. And she is just the best. So that's kind of us. We are the directors for FX here at New Life. So that's what we do on the side. And we've just really loved that. Pastor Kayla asked us into this role, and it was never anything we saw for ourselves, but we're so grateful that we're part of this experience at New Life.
Yeah, and that's kind of the basis for this podcast that we do. It's kind of based around our family experience service where parents come and we're able to invest in them. So kind of, I guess, just what is the importance and the value that you see from FX?
Yeah, so we really love it because FX is a program to really partner with your family. So the whole goal of it is to equip families and encourage families to really give parents tools and resources and encouragement, just so that they know that the church is coming alongside of them as they are like discipling and teaching their children, so that they know that they're not alone, but they also understand that it's not just the church's role to do those things, but we are here really to partner with them. And so it's been a really great program that has just really been a super fun thing to be a part of, but super impactful as well.
That's
and then
great.
Just empowering the parents to be the spiritual leaders, like Blair had said. It's not just they're at church one day out of the whole week, maybe 2 if they do like a youth group or something like that. But it's the parents' job to essentially develop their faith, and we're a supplement to that. So just enabling them to be a part of that. So I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah. I love that mission, investing in the parents.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the idea with this podcast, is that we want to be your personal pep squad, cheering you on as you raise amazing kids to know and love God. That's kind of what we do with this podcast. So this month, I believe our virtue was integrity. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
That is
Yes.
correct.
So can you help us? What is integrity? How would you guys define what integrity is? Maybe you can even just use the definition that our curriculum gives.
Go for it.
I actually, one of our panel teachers was Hope Gillespie that talked, and
Yeah.
very, very, very simple. Know what's right, do what's right. And when she said that, I was like, oh man, that's as simple as it gets, basically. So I really like that definition of it.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. So I think that parents would say that they want their kids to have integrity. That's a virtue that they would want their kids to have. And so we want to talk just a little bit of how we can, raise kids to have integrity. And so for FX, we had a panel of some parents, and they were able to just share a little bit on integrity. So was there anything specifically that stood out to you guys from that panel that you were like, hey, that was a really good insight, and I'd love to be able to share that with the podcast audience?
So much of what they had to say was amazing. All of the people on the panel have been helping with youth in some capacity, teaching. We also had like a probation officer as well. So seeing youth in all areas, in homeschooling, in public schools, and then also kind of on the other side of, hey, they've made some bad choices and now we're correcting them. And so it was really, everything they had to say was really great. But I really liked that, I think it was Mari had said, to really give kiddos understanding the identity so that they get the why. I think it's really easy to tell kids to be kind, to be generous, to do the right thing. If they don't understand why they are supposed to be doing those things, it's a lot harder. So trying to root that identity of, hey, we do these things because Jesus says, Jesus tells us to do X, Y, and Z, and that is why. And I think just with anything, when you have that why, it's going to go so much farther than just, hey, I'm going to tell you to do something and hope that you follow.
Sure.
One of the big things that I liked actually also came from Mari, but she was talking about how God sees your heart and man sees the outward appearance. And obviously we need to be worried about more what's concerned between us and God. But integrity is being the same on the outside as we are on the inside. So that relationship that we're building with God should be exactly reflected. If we're people of integrity, should be reflected to those people outwards. And you need to be that light and be hearing from God and still be a light to the world as well.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. So yeah, with integrity, what would you guys say is the problem really when it comes to integrity? What causes it to be something that our kids struggle with? Like, why do our kids even struggle with integrity? And how can we address the real root issue of what integrity is?
I think there's a lot to it. First of all, we're obviously all human, and so we all make mistakes and we're all going to fall short. So that's the first thing. But there really is just a lot to making right choices. So a lot of kiddos don't have great role models at home. They truly have never seen the right thing shown to them, and our kiddos are alongside them as peers. So they're getting mixed communication about what is and isn't right. We also, in the community and in public schools specifically, we can't infiltrate truly the message of Jesus. So there's not as much, there's a little bit more gray instead of black and white on what is right and wrong, because especially out in the world in like public school settings, that is not something they can teach. Hey, Jesus would not want you to do that. They can't use those types of terms. So I think mixed messaging, they've got a lot of things coming at them from a lot of different platforms, social media, just on what they're supposed to be doing, what they should be looking like, what is the cool thing. And unfortunately, a lot of times the cool thing is not necessarily the right thing. And so that's hard for our kiddos to decipher between those two.
Yeah, I think Hope did a really good job of explaining all that and kind of opening my eyes to it as far as like, first off, inside the public school, you can't say, hey, would Jesus like you to do that? But then also she was talking about how it is mixed signals because you have these kids and we as adults expect them to know the difference between right and wrong. And that's not always true because they might not have that example in their home. So Hope saying that kind of opened my eyes to that. But I think another part you had, we're all human, so we're all going to sin. And then admitting that sin to someone is very hard. So I'm just going to lie instead because that's going to hopefully cover it up and I'm going to be okay. But then the truth always comes out. So I think that's one of the biggest things is, and again, back to what Mari had said, have that identity in God so that they know that His truth, and that's what they want for the world. So it's like, okay, well, I'm going to be a person of integrity even though this hurts because this is what Jesus would want me to do. So just kind of portraying that message, helping their identity be in Christ and understand His truth so they can live that out.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've got parents listening right now, and there could be a parent listening who they're saying, hey, my kid is really struggling with integrity. Maybe they're catching them lying a lot, or they're not being honest. They aren't doing what is right. They, the outside and inside are not matching up. They don't have integrity. They aren't doing what's right. So that person probably needs a little bit of encouragement when they're listening right now. So how would you speak to that parent? What would you say to that person who says, hey, my kids are struggling with integrity and I don't know what to do right now? How would you speak to them? How would you encourage them? What advice would you give them?
Go ahead.
I think for one, you can always, there's great examples in the Bible of people who had great boldness and bravery to do the right thing in midst of really difficult circumstances. So always God's word is a great place to start, and using those examples with your kiddos, even if that's just your bedtime story and you're not even using it to discipline them necessarily, but really just teaching them, getting them in the word and seeing how people throughout time have had to handle integrity and make tough choices, can really be obviously great. God's word is always going to be where to go for that.
Good answer.
Good answer. I think just having grace too and being fully honest with your kiddos too, and giving them examples of times that you've failed in this area, is, I think kids think that their parents are perfect, right? Or that they put us on a pedestal, or because we aren't as open maybe with some of our failures, it's easier for them to think my parents are going to be so upset, or the shame of their choices. And we've all made terrible choices and had to handle situations of integrity. So I think just being open and honest and really having those open lines of communication. Hey, we know things are going to happen. You're going to make mistakes, and we're always here. We always love you. We're always going to be here when that happens. And maybe getting some outside role models too to help in this is always great. So, bringing in teachers, getting some examples of people who really handle this type of situation more often can be a great resource as well.
That's good.
I also think, your kids are always watching you. So if you want your kids to be people of integrity, you have to make sure that you're holding that standard very, very high. So don't say something like, oh, hey, if you do this, then I'll get you a piece of candy, if you're not actually going to do it. You know what I mean? So like making sure you're holding yourself accountable first, and then that moves down to your kids as well.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And Blair, I loved what you said there. I think a big piece of building integrity with kiddos is being someone who, the kids can have integrity too. Mm-hmm. There's nothing worse than being a kid and knowing that you did something wrong and then being afraid, or, we're all going to be afraid to own up when we've done wrong, but feeling like you can't own up to your parents when you've done something wrong, that's going to cripple them in integrity, right? They're not going to know what to do, right?
And it's, they're going to make mistakes. From the very beginning, the devil used shame as like one of the very first things that we had to handle, and Adam and Eve hid from God. And so it's in our nature to do that. And so I think if we can get our kids to understand things are going to happen, you're going to make mistakes, but I want you to know I'm always here. I always love you first, primarily. And then we will figure out the consequences together as a team. I think it's just really impactful for kiddos to know that.
Yeah, it models the heart of God, right? Like we are a model of God's character to our kids.
Absolutely.
As parents. So I think that is a huge piece. So parents, I hope that encourages you, and know that you're not alone too, right? You're not the only one who is struggling with kids who are acting up or not behaving the way that you want them to, right? We're all in process. We're all growing. Was there anything else that stood out to you guys from the panel that you'd like to mention real quick as just another tidbit for our podcast audience?
I think another thing, just personally, that if you do have kiddos acting out, a lot of times that is the symptom, not necessarily the cause. So I think Again, just really trying to peel back the layers, knowing your kiddos, asking questions, really finding out what is the thing that is causing this behavior versus just handling the behavior, because otherwise it'll just continue if we don't handle the heart and the hurt that is on the inside.
It's really good. It's great.
I think I've said everything that I really liked from the podcast. Like, again, the one of the bigger things that stood out was just, again, Hope pointing out, Mari and Hope both said it, we're adults and we know what's right and we expect the kid to know what's right. And that's not always true. Mm-hmm. So you might think that your kid is acting out, but you just haven't taught them that lesson yet. So again, kind of back to what Blair was saying, have that grace with them so they're not feeling like you're attacking them all the time, and let them feel open to make mistakes around you.
And the other thing Hope said is to really set them up for success. So before they go into situations where there could be kind of a pass or fail type of situation, to really talk about it beforehand. And we've experienced that with Bexley. When we really talk about situations, what to expect, it just really negates the fear and gives the expectations. And then I think if they know the expectations, then they know what the consequences are in return. And so I think having those forward conversations, which was something Hope had mentioned on the panel, I think that's really great too, because then no one is as disappointed because everyone knows what should be happening.
I love it. I love it. Well, I hope, parents, that's encouraging. We're not done yet, though, because we have the question that we ask all of our guests, right? And this is kind of how we like to end things out. So guest number 2, you guys are the second person to ever answer this. So you do have a little bit of competition with Craig and Audrey on our previous episode. Yeah. Okay. No pressure, though. Yeah. No pressure, though. But our question is this. What advice would you give to a younger parent? All right, speaking to them, what's something that you wish you would have learned earlier on in parenting? You know, what advice would you give to that younger parent? Hey, I didn't know this when I was a younger parent, but it really would have helped me out if I would have known it earlier. What advice would you give to those parents? What's something that you wish you would have learned earlier in your parenting?
So one thing that that they always say is your child is always watching you. And even I said that earlier about the integrity deal. But I had never really thought about your child listening to you as well. Because I remember very specifically the first curse word Bexley ever said was right after I said it, when I was trying to hang this picture up on the wall. And then she repeated the exact same word. I was like, "What's that?" I was like, "Well, that's a word that Daddy shouldn't have said." And so just understanding that a little bit sooner, I think would have helped a lot. They're listening and watching you all the time.
That's good.
Because she was coloring in the middle of something like her own little world, but she still heard exactly what I was saying. Like they're just very
they're little sponges.
Yeah, 100%.
That's exact. Yeah. Thanks for being honest and vulnerable and transparent, because I know that encourages parents who are listening right now. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think one thing we've all heard the term, it takes a village. And I always kind of thought that was almost like a negative thing. Like it takes a village because kids are really difficult. We need a lot of help, which there are seasons of that for sure. But I've just really learned that it takes a village is such a powerful statement of who do you want your kiddos to see as their role models, right? Who's influencing them every single day? And I think that was just not a concept I really thought about. We've been so lucky to have family right here, part of our life very frequently, daily. But I've just seen the power of the village. And so I think just really making those choices and making community a real part of your life is so impactful, not only for you as a couple, as a family, but it's so impactful on your kiddos too. And so that's just not really something I thought of as a parent. Just, you hear the importance of community and those types of things, but we've just seen it in Bexley's life with who she gets to be around, the kind of friends and families that we've surrounded ourselves with. And so I think that's encouraging because you get to choose what village you're going to be a part of. And I think that is super fun.
I love it.
That's good.
Yeah, that's exactly what last month's topic was about community. So if you want If you want to learn more about community and getting involved and having people around you, then go listen to last week's episode all about parenting and friendship. But that's it for today's episode. Thanks so much for being here. Parents, know this. You're doing an amazing job. Keep it up. We're here cheering you on. Continue to raise kids to know and love God. And we'll see you on the next episode.